to go and wake the beast! I sentence you to a beating!
Alex, you have seen some new gameplay of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade.
Yes.
Talk to me about it.
Well, so most of this footage is of the new chapter. So I know we were talking about this beforehand, and you didn't play the original FF7 remake, right?
Yeah.
So
I didn't play it because I need to let the people know that I didn't play it because when I bought the game, I bought it later than everyone else. I bought it and then they announced that Intergrade is going to have the PS5 4K 60 frames. And I have this thing where I cannot play a game when I know there's a superior version coming. So I just put it on the back burner for now, but I'm excited to play.
So, yeah, I mean, well, so basically what is Intergrade? Intergrade is two things. One, it's the upgrade for the game where it just upgrades the whole game, better visuals, smoother performance, all that sort of stuff. And if you've played the original, you'll hopefully be able to get a good idea, a good indication of how it performs and how it looks from this very video. But then also there is a couple of new chapters that have been added. I think they're calling it Intermission. And basically, you know, in the original Final Fantasy VII, there are, what is it? Is it 9 playable characters? I think that's right off the top of my head. And basically, obviously, in FF7 Remake, there's only the 4 and 1 who isn't playable. They're just sort of the guest character. And so this introduces Yuffie, who is one of the beloved cast members in the original game. In the original game, she was actually an optional cast member, so you could miss her entirely. Okay. But they're clearly going to fold her into the story more properly in the remake, as they should. And so this is an all-new story chapter that wasn't featured in the original game that stars her.
Your full support. We got this.
And you can see, you know, in this footage, there's new boss battles, there's new areas that you fight through. And this story, basically, it seems like it's going to take place concurrently to some of the events in the main game, and they might give you a little bit more info on some of the stuff that was going on, and it seems like it might also tease perhaps a little bit some stuff that's going to happen in the next game, because obviously it's going to be a multi-part retelling of this story.
Do you know how many parts it is, just out of curiosity?
They have not said. Now, if I had to guess, I think the smart money would probably be on it being a trilogy, but you know, the amount of content that there is in the original Final Fantasy VII, it could easily be 4 parts, easily.
Yeah.
So
wasn't that on like 10 discs?
Well, it was 3 discs, but the weird thing is, the thing is, when they made the original FF7, they were making a game and they were just like, we're going to throw everything we can think of in this game. And so it burns through areas and assets and ideas so quickly that when you're recreating that now, if you were to burn through areas as fast as the original FF7 does, it would be the most expensive game of all time. Which indeed, actually, the original Final Fantasy VII, I think, was the most expensive game of all time when it released. So, you know, they can't do that. It's not tenable. It doesn't work. So they split it up into pieces. And so this is, like I say, a remastered version, you know, brought up to next-gen standards or current-gen standards now, with a new chapter. Just want to quickly explain for people who are curious. I know this has been said before. So basically, if you've got the original Final Fantasy VII Remake on PlayStation 4, either digitally or physically or whatever, you can upgrade for free to the Intergrade version. However, you do not get the new Yuffie chapter that is included, that is what we're watching here. So you only get the original game upgraded. And then you can download the Yuffie chapter like a DLC for, I think it's like $15 or something like that.
If you have a PS5, you get it for free. So this is
basically, if you have a PS5, and you've got the original game, you get a free upgrade, but it's only of the original game, and then you can buy the new chapter as DLC. If you go out and buy a PlayStation 5 version of the game in a PS5 box, you get it all, including that new chapter, all in the one box.
That sounds like it's not going to be received well. I'm going to have to research that.
I mean, I think it's fair. I think it's fair enough. You know, I think they are doing a new chapter. They could have just released this chapter as DLC. They're giving people a free PS5 upgrade, and there's some new DLC that is PS5 exclusive. And if you go and buy it brand new on PS5 at full price, you'll get that DLC included, which I think is fair enough when you think to go and buy the PS4 version now, it's probably like $30, right? So it's probably a half price. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can see here, there's There's footage of battles. Yuffie's got a unique sort of gameplay mechanic where she's got combo attacks where she partners up with Sonon, who is a new character, wasn't in the original game, and seems to be like her partner in this. I doubt he's long for this world in this game. I have to imagine he's probably going to bite it. But yeah, she can partner up with him for partner attacks. That wasn't in the original game. Rama, the summon, the lightning god, is in the game. He wasn't in the original Final Fantasy VII Remake release. He obviously was in the original Final Fantasy VII. And so that's new for this. There's new materia, stuff like that. And you can just see, yeah, I mean, the other thing that's cool is, did you play the original Final Fantasy VII?
Nah, I didn't. That's why I'm letting you just say what you've got to say here.
So in the original FF7, there was a strategy mini-game called Fort Condor that you visited as part of the story.
I've heard about this.
Like a proper strategy game. And, you know, I say a proper strategy game. It was a PS1 era mini-game, so it was kind of naff, but it was cool. And so also back in this, there's a version of the Fort Condor game, an upgraded modern version. So you've got that as well, and then obviously all this folds in. There's also some new super bosses in the original game, some new extra bosses that you fight in the combat simulator. That's nothing to do with the story. Just like if you want the ultimate challenge, here's a fan service extra boss.
Okay,
but yeah, I mean it seems like, in my opinion, I understand some people are probably going to be mad about the Yuffie chapter not being included, but they are giving you a free upgrade to next gen. I mean, God knows, I had to pay $10 for Tony Hawk, you know? Not everyone is giving it away for free. So the idea of getting the upgrade for free, I'm totally going to play this game again. I do think it's a 5 out of 5 game. I still love it. The battle system is just excellent. And as hopefully you can see in this video, you know, we didn't capture this footage, so I haven't seen this running natively. But Square sort of sent over this footage for us to have a look at, and we're allowed to share it with you, but only if we talk over it. So if any of you are thinking of hopping to the comments and saying, please shut up, we can't really.
We can't.
These are the rules. But
we're under duress by Square Enix. We have to keep speaking.
But yeah, they've got a gun to my head. But no, but seriously, you know, they obviously want this to go out as an editorial thing, which is totally fair enough. And the way I editorialize it is by just saying the original game is great, and I think you can see for yourself that this is looking pretty crisp and pretty lovely. I think the truth is, a lot of the FF7 Remake character models were low-key PS5 models, even on the PS4. Had a really weird thing going on this game where in places it was the best game you've ever seen. And in other places it looked like a high-key PS3 game. It had some weird textures in certain areas.
The door texture, I've heard about the door.
Well, the door is clearly an error though. Whereas there's junkyard areas where there's just piles of junk and the textures are just bad. Or it's like this whole thing of the main character models are just beautiful, and there's always a difference between main character models and random NPCs. But in this game, that distance is vast. The difference between the main character models and the random NPCs is pretty large. And if I'm honest, looking at this footage, I don't think it's going to fix all of that. I think, the door will obviously be gone, and some of the background stuff where there were CG backgrounds they used in the distance and they were quite grainy and bad looking. I think those sorts of things will be fixed. Yeah. But it is an incremental upgrade, because obviously they are, for the most part, moving on to part 2. So I'm just glad to get a better version of this game. I'm praying that this comes to PC at some point.
Yeah, I thought it was not Intergrade, but I thought
they haven't said. So the weird thing is, when they announced Final Fantasy VII Remake, the first trailer they showed for it said first on PlayStation at the end.
Okay.
And when the original game came out on PlayStation 4, there was a sticker on the box that said only on PlayStation with a little asterisk, and then it said until. And it was 1 year. And it was 1 year from release. But now this is also exclusive to PlayStation for at least a while. But you would hope, because I definitely think this looks great on PS5. But I'm sure PC mods and cranking this up to maximum settings, doing it on ultra wide, if it could support that, I think it would look ridiculous. So hopefully that's something that happens. But it's definitely bloody good looking. So
it is definitely, as someone who's not a big fan, I can only go off visuals. It definitely looks like something I want to jump in. As I said, I didn't play it, but it's something that's been on my radar. And seeing the Intergrade footage makes it look that bit better. I'm a sucker for high FPS. I can't play 30 FPS anymore. I've been spoiled. So I've got one question. So this is completely separate. So for example, if I didn't care about Final Fantasy 7 remake, could I just jump in and play Intergrade by itself, just like, and just leave it? Is that
You know what?
self-contained?
I don't know, but I have to imagine, based on how Square has done some of this stuff in the past with games like Kingdom Hearts,
Yeah.
it will probably, yes, just be an option on the main menu to play the Intergrade stuff, to play the Yuffie chapter, because it is completely separate from the main game. It is completely separate.
Okay,
So
so
it sort of takes place parallel.
yeah. So what did they say anything about game length for this DLC?
They haven't said, but if I had to guess, I would expect Final Fantasy VII Remake is split into chapters. I think it's 19 chapters, something like that. 15 chapters. It's definitely in that region. And if I had to guess, I think the Intergrade stuff will be a couple of chapters, basically. So it'll be the equivalent. It'll be the equivalent of maybe 10% or something of the main game. Yeah, I just looked it up. The original game is 18 chapters. So, for instance, if this Yuffie chapter is 2 or 3 chapters, that means it will probably end up being like 4 or 5 hours of content, and I think that's probably what it will end up being, or a little bit less. I think, but I think people are hungry for more of this world and more of this universe. And you haven't played the original, but the stuff that happens in it that is different from the original Final Fantasy VII, that leaves fans with questions and stuff, which is great.
I think that's great. I feel like if they are doing their fans proud, I've not met one Final Fantasy fan who doesn't rant and rave about how good it is every time it's mentioned. You can't say a bad word about Final Fantasy to Final Fantasy fans because they will come for your neck.
It's and I was one of the people who didn't want the remake. I was like,
Oh,
why
really?
are they remaking this? Just make a new Final Fantasy, for God's sake. Final Fantasy is supposed to be about reinvention. You're not reinventing if you're remaking something you've made before, but it is excellent. And I hold my hands up that to some degree about that stuff, I was wrong. And I'm excited for this, and I'm excited for the next part. And I'm really, really hopeful that we get a nice, hefty tease for what's going to happen in part 2 as part of the upgrade, whether that's a new post-credit scene, whether that's some new information that comes across in the intermission Yuffie section. Yeah, I'm really pumped for it. But at least now people have had a bit of a look at what it looks like visually. Is
there anything else in particular you want to mention just before we wrap this up?
No, I think that's it. I mean, the main thing is this is out June 10th, I think. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, this is out June 10th, so it's not that far off now. It'll be out just before E3, so try not to get lost and forget this and all the E3 madness, because I think it's going to be a great upgrade. Like I say, if you're not bothered about the Yuffie chapter, go on Amazon and buy a cheap copy of the PS4 game now, because that'll get you the entitlement for the upgrade.
Yeah.
Or if you want the whole thing, you can go and buy the PlayStation 5 version. You can pre-order that. Or if you've got the original, you can wait and you'll be able to buy the Yuffie DLC as well as your free upgrade. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited.
Yeah, that's great. Even more Final Fantasy for Final Fantasy fans and lovers, and a nice spec bump for those of us jumping in. So when we do finally play it, it's at its peak performance.
Hey, PS5 needs more games, right? Even if they're ports of old games. So
that's it.
Take it.
That is it. All right. That is Dorrani and Alex from VG247. We're going to have a write-up of some sort on the VG247.com website. And that is us signing out. Peace.
See ya.